so far to harbor life. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
You guys thought I was done talking about the space shuttle? Heck no, especially not when so-called truthers have so much to say about it. I think because the shuttle program was relatively recent and every single second of it was recorded, the conspiratards have a lot of footage they can sift through, which allows them to come to a lot of silly conclusions. These folks spend their lives trying to convince themselves that space is fake, so every vehicle that's ever gone there has to have some sort of theory attached to it. Some claim it's CGI, with weak or lacking explanations of how it's pulled off live. Some call it a fancy fireworks show that lands in the ocean out of sight somewhere without a lick of footage of one coming back down. This, however, is something else. Thank you to my pet Saiyan Myrai Vegeta for finding this video for me, I guess. It's called, Is the Space Shuttle a Balloon? Eat a dick. Now, I'll admit, my initial reaction to this launch failure was slightly inaccurate. I was correct about where, but not why. Fuck you. Yeah. So, he points to this first one and it's like, oh, it folds like a balloon. Like, I get the point he thinks he's making, but it folds right where the first stage starts to get thinner. So that's going to be the separation point. It broke at a fairing, or at a stage separation, because flat earthers don't understand that all rockets exist in multiple stages. So that's all that is something failed with the staging mechanism and the whole thing fell down. So you guys ever notice how these people never cite what they're showing you? One could assume it's just laziness or stupidity, but I'm starting to chalk it up to intellectual dishonesty. If you like to point to clips and call them fake, but never tell people where the clips come from, it can be hard to respond to your argument. However, after some searching, I finally found it. This is the Atlas Agina rocket, launched 109 times between 1960 and 1978. Sometimes they failed, and this one has a very particular reason why. The Atlas Agina launch system used what were commonly referred to as balloon rockets. Yup. Why? Because they didn't have any internal structural support and needed to be pressurized at all times, like a balloon. In this case, a leak occurred and depressurized the vehicle, causing it to constrict on itself and collapse, which you can actually see in this extended version of the video this guy didn't show you. Thankfully, the rocket had already been partially drained of fuel, and thus didn't ignite upon collapse before the fire suppression system was activated. Moving on. I said moving on. We need to see it again, huh? It's not like this is a platform where you can rewind a video if you want to see it again. No such technology exists. Okay, well, first of all, that looks to me like a layer of thermal blankets that was surrounding the payload. Pretty much everything that goes into space has thermal blankets on it somewhere. Second, that could very well be metal. I don't think this guy understands that just about any material can crumple like that when the right kind of pressure is applied.
The plane atomized with the impact. It just disappeared into dust. Only the tips of the wings escaped total destruction.
And that is a SpaceX Falcon 9 exploding shortly after launch in 2015. Thanks for the citation on that. Oh wait, I found it myself. And this is, quite obviously, to anyone who's seen enough rockets go boom, a structural failure. A strut for the frontal oxygen tank failed and it crushed the secondary tank, causing the whole thing to collapse mid-flight. Of course, based on the next clip, which is just a bouncy castle inflating, this guy thinks it looks like a balloon bursting. Do these look like balloons? Yup, metal bends, dude.
It is balloon!
This seems like a weird example. You'd think a more primitive society wouldn't be very good at identifying modern technology. Yeah, it's almost like lighting and composition exist. Not to mention, every single shuttle was refurbished to hell and back between flights, so you're gonna find little differences here and there. Rocket-assisted balloon. That's not a thing! You know, I had to look it up because I was convinced there was never such a thing as a rocket-assisted balloon. However, not only were rockoons a real thing, they were awful. The only time rockets and balloons were used together were to use balloons to carry a rocket into the upper atmosphere, negating the need for it to launch through Earth's thickest layers of air. We don't really use those anymore. Wanna know why? You can't steer a balloon.
T-minus 15 seconds. The sound suppression water system has been activated.
CLS is go for main engine start.
We have a go for main engine start. And we have main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, celebrating its 25th birthday by racking up science and supplies to the space station.
Yeah, first of all, it's called production value. No self-respecting video editor would be handed a bunch of footage, told to make it look pretty for the public, and then only use a single camera angle. Except for me. I'm gonna do that right now.
Go for main engine start. 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 0, and liftoff for the final launch of Endeavour. Expanding our knowledge, expanding our lives in space.
Program. Roger, roll, Endeavour. Countdown plan is nominal.
T-minus 15 seconds. The sound suppression water system has been activated.
CLS is go for
We have a go for main engine.
A little fire? A little fire? Bro, those engines are huge.
Huge. Huge. Huge.
That is not a little fire. No, it is pushed up and then falls back down because it's still connected to this thing called the launch pad. See that big orange sucker there that unclamps once the shuttle settles into place? It's holding the shuttle down while part of it is being propelled up.
And we have main engine start. 2, 1. 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 And we have main engine start. 2, 1.
Yes, even about 2,200 tons can be moved when enough force is applied. You ever notice how your car, which weighs 3 tons on its own, by the way, kind of bounces when you let go of the brake and hit the gas? Same principle here. Scale up the car and the amount of push its engine can produce, and the same thing will happen.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, celebrating its 25th birthday by racking up science and supplies to the space station. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, celebrating its 25th birthday by racking up science and supplies to the space station.
Yeah, she starts pretty slowly, like every big launch system. What he forgets about here is both staging and delta V. A shuttle is losing weight as it moves upwards, and therefore its velocity increases exponentially the higher it gets. Especially after the solid boosters separate, because the shuttle has just immediately lost an extra 180 tons of weight. Here's a C-130. This baby weighs, depending on her payload, around 38 tons. Look how slowly she takes off, and yet she doesn't fall to the ground. I wonder why. Second, here's the overall problem with this balloon theory. That enormous fire coming out of the engines and boosters requires fuel. Even if it were just a little fire, used for show as you seem to think, it still needs fuel. Where's the fuel being kept? In the orbiter? Slight problem with that. The shuttle's entire design was focused on the orbiter holding the smallest amount of fuel possible in order to maximize cargo space. So I ask again, where's the fuel for the fire?
Houston now controlling the midnight ride of Rick Sturckow and his crew to the International Space Station. Discovery rolling onto the proper alignment. Discovery rolling onto the proper alignment. Discovery rolling onto the proper alignment.
Well, that's a nice little theory you've cooked up, but here's my problem with it. The gravity turn is a thing. Every rocket does it. And try launching a shuttle without doing a roll program. Look, I'll show you. Well, look at that. After 2 complete failures, I managed to achieve a stable orbit with barely enough fuel to get home and none whatsoever to maneuver around in orbit. And the orbit is eccentric, extending out 100 kilometers past perigee, the single most inefficient launch I've ever performed. It's almost like the roll program helps or something.
And his crew to the International Space Station. Discovery rolling onto the proper alignment for its 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the international outpost.
Probably somewhere relatively close to the launch pad. It's very zoomed in, and it's being tracked by hand, so you're gonna get a little bit of movement there.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff.
They do when you apply 8 million pounds of thrust to them.
7 seconds into the flight. Engines beginning to rev up. Standing by for the throttle up call.
Yet, let's have a look at a launch film from a plane, shall we?
Yeah, folks, space shuttle's going off the right side of the aircraft right now. Those of you on the right side of the aircraft, you can see the space shuttle.
Wow.
If you're on the left side of the aircraft, you can probably see people on the right side of the aircraft looking at the space shuttle.
Solid rocket booster separation confirmed. Guidance now converging. Discovery's onboard computers commanding the main engine nozzle.
It's edited. You've already established that someone has cut multiple camera angles together. Why do you think they wouldn't adjust the audio too? You're right, from the ground, you can't even hear the separation. Here's an unedited video to prove it.
That call a precursor to SRB separation, standing by for SRB set.
To swivel, aiming the shuttle for its precise target in space for main engine cutoff.
Okay, you sound good.
Discovery Houston, negative return.
Copy, negative return.
Yeah, pretty photos exist. So what? As for Hollywood productions, no, it's not. Here is a Hollywood production side by side with its real-life counterpart. If you can't spot the difference, that's your failure, not mine.
Started. 6, 5, 4, 3.
If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel, which is Dead Kennedy in Space. If you want to support me further, consider donating on Patreon or purchasing some of my work through Amazon or Teespring. Thank you, and I'll see you over the curve, Space Cowboys.
Live there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam, in a vast cosmic arena.